Hello, 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 everybody.
Good
Happy
morning.
Thursday, right? Happy
Thursday.
Thursday. So,
Welcome back to Health, Wealth, and Relationships with Tisa.
and Grant.
Hey, it's been a good hot summer so far. How is everybody doing out there? I hope you're beating the heat, as they say.
It's a scorcher, and we all know it's a
It's,
scorcher. I think
it's
it's been super hot all over the country. I know it's going to be 100 degrees here in the Omaha, Nebraska area, but also out in the east. And we got a special guest today. We're going to talk about some things, right, Tisa?
Yep, we got a special guest. Excited to hear Dr. Peter. So go ahead and introduce him. We just met him kind of online organically, which is how Lord puts things in place. And so let's introduce him.
Yeah, we got to get him introduced because he brings a lot of specialty to what we've been talking about over the last maybe 6 months or so, and specifically around cancer and how it's been affecting white Americans, Black Americans. There's some disparities there and I'm curious, right, about where those disparities come. So Dr. Peter Blain comes with a lot of authority in that area, a lot of education area, a lot of lived experiences that we really want to unpack today and kind of get into a candid conversation around one of Tisa's favorite subjects around cancer prevention and survivorship.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. Welcome, Dr. Peter.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. I can give a little bit about myself. So I'm a doctor of nurse practice. I've been in oncology now for almost 10 years. I've been in healthcare for about 17-ish. At the tender age of 31, I started working in healthcare at about 15. Health equity is all about legacy in my mind. You can't make a sustainable legacy for you, your family, if you're not alive, and then if you're also not able to tell the story. Explaining your experiences and educating your family there's so many missed opportunities if you are not present to do so. And then if we are dying at the age of 25, 30 from extremely preventable diseases, we as a community will continue to be behind other racial groups, hands down. And
Absolutely.
also, health equity bleeds or flows into all aspects of our life. You cannot run a successful business if you're not in decent health. You may be able to run it temporarily, but then you have to pass it on to someone else, right? Health equity affects everyone, regardless of where you're coming from. And it's all about, can we raise the standard so that everyone has equal access to high quality healthcare? I know in my background, I've seen hundreds of patients reach remission and survive their cancer, but unfortunately die from chronic diseases like uncontrolled diabetes, high blood pressure that's not even related to their chemotherapy. There's a lot that we can do in the cancer space also to help and empower patients to be as close to the driver's seat as possible in their decision making, instead of being a passenger or sometimes not even in the car. Someone else is driving it and you're just kind of an innocent bystander watching it pass you by. Ultimately, Black people, I'm Black and Hispanic, so I have my foot in both communities, but Black people do survive cancer diagnoses. Unfortunately, our culture, there's a lot of secrecy that always goes back to the transatlantic slave trade, slavery, that really limits a lot of community members' ability to speak about their experience, or that they've even achieved survivorship. We've seen this in so many aspects of our life where your house business stays where? In the house. So it's hard to even have a reference point of, oh, this person survived their cancer, when they're dealing with the internal struggle of, well, they may have had something like non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is very treatable. Usually about 90-ish% of people beat it, survive, and go ahead. But in their mind, cancer is cancer. So when their cousin or sister has breast cancer, they're like, well, they didn't survive. How come I got a chance to survive? So there's a lot of survivor's guilt that exists in our communities, which we have to kind of break down and get ahead of, so that we know we need to share these stories. We have to have reference points to say, hey, look, this person beat it, this person beat it, this person beat it. And that's how we start to open up a larger conversation of how did you navigate this, but also where do we go from here to make it as hopefully universal as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And you know, that is so, when you talk, Dr. Peter, everything you say is, it's like an echo of what I'm really trying to accomplish with Pink Lotus. And so we align so well, and with, so, you know, it's a God thing when the things align like this, and
Absolutely.
you know, it's not by chance. And so
No.
I recognize that. And so what the first thing you were talking about is really what I've been saying all along, is a legacy of good health. Is teaching our community to leave a legacy of good health. We have a legacy of bad health already,
Yeah,
right? We all the bad
absolutely.
things that that's trickled down through the generations. It's time to change that narrative and turn it into a legacy of good health. And so
Yes,
when we
and
try
we
to
can do
teach
that.
holistic, yeah, when we try to teach holistic living, it's the only thing that you can say, like, this is how you can live, right? So I'm a 14-year breast cancer survivor. Um,
Amen.
Grace and mercy first, but it's how I'm living, right? How are you
Mhm.
living post cancer, post treatment? I did radiation, chemo, the whole nine. So I'm speaking on really the long term effect of those treatments, but how you can live healthy post treatment, post cancer, and like you said, show what grace and mercy is. Show what post cancer looks like. So we're a
Show us it
survivorship
exists.
program. This is
Show
what
us
it
it
looks like.
exists.
Yeah,
Right? That's a big part is we got to a lot of times too, especially in our community, we don't even have the reference points to say, "Hey, look, this person did it." How
yeah,
would you ever know that something's possible if there's no examples? And then we have
exactly.
to find the long way around to get to the same point B compared to
Yeah,
us other groups. When other
Mm.
groups, it's clearly laid out. They got reference points here and there. They got people willing to show them. They got someone willing to show up to the doctor's office with them
mhm,
that is willing to say, "Hey, look, I went through this treatment or I had this experience. How can we do our best to replicate this for my loved one?" That's what we need to
absolutely.
do a lot of.
Yeah,
We got to
and that's
look
what we
at this.
do.
I want to unpack this just a little bit so we can frame this in the right way. That and I'm shocked when I hear this because or see these. I don't know if it's the statistics. It's just the fact is that you can have two people with the exact same diagnosis, the same
Mhm.
stage, in the same country in this United States. However, they're getting, they get that the treatment, the diagnosis, and they understand that they have this disease, but then the ball gets dropped through the process that it takes to get to a point of overcoming the cancer and then the preventive side. What's really happening along that entire process over the life cycle? I want to ask that to Dr. Blain.
So there's at its core, right? At its core, you got to first start there. What is cancer? Cancer at its basis is the ultimate battle of you versus you, right? This is your DNA, your RNA, your proteins making these decisions, and also a lot of times, unfortunately, opting for several reasons to no longer listen to the signals throughout your body to stop growing and to continue this ineffective growth pattern. Um, that's ultimately what it is, right? But then you have the diagnosis. So many people get a diagnosis, but there's the lack of access to adequate care, not just lack of access to care.
That part.
Everyone doesn't, yeah, everyone doesn't need to go to the big academic centers. You don't have to drive 50 miles to go to the university of whatever to get care unless you have a very rare disease and they need clinical trials, et cetera, et cetera. But the vast majority of the drugs that we have are available at your local cancer centers, your local hospitals. Now it's all about barriers. The barriers that exist, especially in the Black community, are so large that we really have to get a hold of. So, and we'll talk a little bit later on about some of the barriers, but especially in like the Black community again, that there's the reality is some of these barriers are so strong and so large that they stop us from reaching survivorship.
Mhm.
And survivorship, we can even go back to what is survivorship in cancer. Survivorship often means that uh, cancer is now undetectable or remission. You're in remission for an extended period of time. You no longer have to go see your oncologist for every other week or every 3 weeks. You're stretching out these follow up appointments to every 3 to 6 months, depending on what's going on for you. And then it goes back to the heart of so not only do we address the core issues, but then you talk about disparities, right? Disparities is really the name of the game that's limiting our ability to reach some of these survivorship metrics and survivorship goals. Disparity always boils down to access. Do we have access to the same high quality care as other people in the country with the same economic background as us? And unfortunately, the answer is no. So that's kind of where we land. I missed a part of your question too.
No, I think you're getting to it, that we don't have it. It's just we're falling through the cracks. Where is that happening?
Not to interrupt you, but I don't even think that. Sorry, let me put that there. My work phone was plugging, but yeah, I don't even think it's cracks anymore. At this point, we've realized these are chasms, right? Wow. We're over a canyon, right? You have a whole group of people that should have access to something, but they can see the goal on the other side, but there's this massive canyon in between us trying to get through. And the canyon a lot of times is unconscious bias, conscious bias too. People just not taking what you're saying for face value. And that's really where the health disparities come in. For others, there's a bridge already created for them to get to the other side. For us, there's a lot of missing pieces on this bridge. There may be the structure, there may be some ropes, but there is the individual planks are just not there. You don't have an established nurse navigator to walk you through. Insurance, your insurance, you may have low insurance or you may be underinsured. That's another plank missing. And by the time you start to look at this, you realize so many steps and holes are now in this walking path. It's next to impossible to get across. The ones that do have to have someone intervene, right? You got to give an example. Like someone came with a helicopter because you had someone above that said, hey, no, I got to make sure this person gets through. So they picked you up and brought you to the other side. But the vast majority of us, we're still trying to navigate. We're stuck on step 3 when everyone else is, by month 2 or 3 in their cancer journey, already on step 30 and 40. Why are we still so far back? And then there's a whole host of reasons that are limiting us, which a lot of the root causes, we can dig into some of the root causes if you feel too.
What do you think, Tisa?
Well, it's a Pandora's box, really, when you start unpacking it. But yes. I think if we stay on, there's a lot of holes and a lot of disparities that play into part. But there's their history that plays into part. There's there's the biases that play into part. So it comes from all angles. And so I think the key thing that we were talking about is we need those navigators. I was a navigator for 2 years and we lost funding. And what we found is, it's really coming back. So I'm trying to close that disparity, change that to statistic in terms of us dying from breast cancer, right? So that's the whole thing that got me motivated to start Pink Lotus is how can we change those numbers? How can we change that narrative from 1987 to 2026? What can we do, like physically do, mentally do, to start bringing that number down? And it's getting over those barriers, it's getting over those disparities and just really taking control and a more proactive approach to our health. We really, I don't know how to say, we got to get over the fear, and we got to address the disparities. We got to address the transportation issues. We got to address getting in there late, not having insurance, not having the primary care to diagnose it early. When you're talking about diagnosis, we're getting it diagnosed too late. That's one of our things that we know as a statistic of why we're dying, right? We're catching it stage 4. Well, that means we're not getting it. First of all, they're getting it younger. So we got to reach that younger generation, which Pink Lotus is trying to do. But also getting to the communities, giving them that information so we'll get a little more proactive action going on so we can get them in the doctor earlier. There are signs to breast cancer. If you're getting to that stage 4, you're ignoring some stuff, okay? Because there's all kind of signs before you get to stage 4, okay? Correct. So educating on the different ways that breast cancer can show up, the puckering, the leaky breast, those other things besides the lump, is what we try to teach in Pink Lotus. Try to teach the young girls, don't just look for a lump. Sometimes there is a pain associated. I had the same pain in the same area during my menstrual period years before, or maybe it's probably developing during that time, but that's where my breast cancer developed. And so I'm just going to share what I know happened to me. That's why we have a support group of all Black women of like, how did you find it? What was your experience? What worked for you? What didn't work for you? Do you think if we would have caught it early, it would have made a difference? Those who are caught it early are speaking out about early detection. So it's just making all those things aware to the community and this education. I think we can bring it down just on education on what it looks like and early detections, right? So we're not catching it at stage 4 and dying, because stage 4, there's not a whole lot you can do but continue to treat it, right? So we want to catch it prior to that. We want to be proactive.
A thing about early identification too and early detection, there's an exploding field right now, right? There's a bunch of companies doing stuff for it, which is super helpful. But the best, at least in my opinion, the best thing for early detection is knowing your body.
Absolutely.
You have to do those monthly breast exams a week after your period has been completed. Do a monthly breast exam. If your periods are wildly irregular, that's something you definitely want to talk to your GYN about.
Right.
Have a GYN, right? You have a certain set of reproductive organs that are so unique. There's a whole field dedicated to its research and to understanding it. Use it. Try to find one if you can. Leverage your primary care. A big issue is a lot of us don't have a primary care, which
that's another big issue.
Things. I love all the screening tools that we have available, but it goes nowhere if you don't have someone that can take action on this.
That's right.
I was at a conference a couple years ago, and there was a woman that spoke. And then I also had a similar experience with a patient, actually a few patients of mine, and I was cross-covering a different clinic, but they went to a mobile bus, which is super helpful and good. I'm glad the mobile buses are available and in a lot of the inner cities, but they don't have a primary care. So they had a positive diagnosis. They had a positive mammogram, and it just hung out in the ether until they got a primary care. One lady, because our job made her have a primary care for an exam, which for just all this other things they had to have done. And then that's where the images were then finally sent to someone that was associated with the insurance of this patient.
Right.
And then she's like, I thought I was healthy. What? Oh, yeah, you had a breast cancer. We noticed that you had a spot a year ago.
Right.
So she's getting ready to get a job and change her life and change her family's dynamics now, right? A gainful employment, wonderful new job. And wait, I got to go to this doctor and get this handled. Look how destabilizing a lot of times not only diagnosis is, but delayed intervention on these diagnoses.
Delayed intervention.
That we can do. A year later, from what was told, she was like stage 2A. When they got to her, she was like high grade stage 3. So she needed surgery, chemotherapy. She needed extended, which her initial, if this was caught, even we waited 3 months, right? She would have probably only had surgery alone and follow up with a breast oncologist.
Right.
Look at the time that's missed, the impacts on her family, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
So I love these mobile buses. We just need to also on our end have some provider, if there is a positive result, even if there's a negative result, for them to even have that as another data point to say, okay, this is not the problem that you're experiencing. This is not a breast cancer problem. This is not a breast issue. This may be a GYN issue. This may be a lung issue. We need these data points to be able to cross off certain things. So I'm all for screening. We definitely need someone legally that can be held also responsible. That's the purpose of having a primary care too, is a lot of our insurances require that you have referrals placed before you can go see a specialist. Okay, if you don't have a primary care, we're missing the quarterback, the person to pass the ball to the next person.
Right.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Dr. Blain, if you don't mind, around that area of cultural competence. And do you feel that people, as you may know, you need to get follow-up care, that kind of thing, but your experience in the clinical settings there's a misalignment, there's disconnect, and there's a discomfort, and maybe a blatant fear of being in the first place. But cultural competence, obviously the social determinants of health, these are big, factors. Help us understand it, because we wanted to frame this conversation around the disparities, especially from a racial lens, on that we have, like, we're not getting cancer more, but we're dying more. Like, well, where is that?
So I wish I had all the answers, but from what I've seen, what I've noticed, what I've read, I've been to so many conferences, especially around racial disparities, especially in the Black community. A lot of it stems from there's just so much racism that exists, and I hate to be the person to be like, oh, it's racism. Okay, but now what are we doing about it though? Right? Okay, we pointed it out, but now what is our action behind it? A lot of these barriers, unfortunately, are really, really complex family dynamics. especially in the breast cancer space. What is it? About a little over 40% of all Black households are raised by single mothers. That it means there's one person making an income for X amount of children. Now give her a breast cancer diagnosis. Now she's not able to work. She's in treatment. Now we have furthermore barriers. You have consistent misinformation, which a lot of times it comes from a place of fear, past medical and mental traumas that have existed, and we cannot neglect to really acknowledge that. Some people will say, don't go to this hospital. Uncle Larry died there. Okay, we got it, but that is so strong in our community too. We say, oh, no, they don't know how to treat us there. They don't, but let's show them how to treat us. All too often, especially the providers that work in our community, if you want to work on us, you have to know how to talk with us. Okay. And that is a whole nother conversation of ways that you can engage your providers to make sure they genuinely hear and document what you say, not just what they think you said.
Yes.
All too often, a lot of us are falling on, well, I don't think I just conveyed it well enough to the doctor. No, or the provider. No, it is what they heard. That's the problem. Now, cultural competency comes into the chat, into the field where they understand fully what you're saying, right? You show up to your doctor's office and you're in the middle of your cancer journey and you say things like, us as Black people, we rarely say that we're depressed, we're anxious. We don't associate ourselves with a lot of these words. We say things like, I feel like God's turned his back on me. Yeah, I just been sleeping a lot. I'm run down. I'm tired. Oh, these damn kids. And then you're like, wait, we know what that means. That means you're overwhelmed. You got a lot going on at home. You might need some additional help, resources. I can show up. I can make you some food. Can I help you fix your living room so people can actually come in your house and sit down? These are things that matter to us and that are different, but yet we all speak the same language. We all speak the same language, and it's English. How is it missed? It's educating these providers that are going to care and work on us. How do we make sure that they actually know how to talk with us? Being, again, as close to the driver's seat as possible in your healthcare journey instead of being a passenger outside the car. And how we do that is by we frame the conversation, asking the right questions for the provider. There's a laundry list of things that we can do. Have an advanced care directive, which is another way that we could really show them that we take our health serious, so you need to take it serious. Having that legal document completed and having the right family members, having family members with credentials to even be your healthcare proxy, and understand what your wishes are so that you're not stuck on life support for 6 months because, I didn't want to kill grandma. No, grandma has lived to 80. God bless her. But we cannot continue to let her suffer like this and understand what is really going on, not just be fully reactive to the situation, but proactive. Right.
I like that. Everything you said there is so important. I want to get Tisa's take. She's been through the journey. She's been on both sides of the before, the after. Think through that cultural competence. Did you have to really change your language, get a better understanding to get to that? Because it seems like you got carried through because you were safely cancer free, but that's not the case for everybody.
Absolutely. And you know what? When I got cancer, people always say, well, why me? Because you know what? I already had a voice, right? So my history, my degree is counseling, and that's just how Lord lines things up. When you have a calling, like I have a calling, so my history is counseling, and my degree is counseling and psychology. Then I went into social work. And so when I got diagnosed, I had already had a big understanding and a mindset of the whys, and I've always trying to figure stuff out. That's just my lifestyle. So when I got diagnosed, knowing it was my purpose, I had to turn that over. So for me, I already had the history of social work and getting connected and resources, right? So it was easy for me to navigate. I'm already a positive person, so I was already going to turn it into lemonade. So I smiled through my chemos. I smiled through my radiations. I was actually on Facebook educating about treatments at that time, 12, 14 years ago, because there was nobody on Facebook educating about it. And it was, again, my purpose to start educating through my journey. So for me, it was nothing. But my charge is to teach others. My charge is to not just hold that information for me and say, yay, God saved me, is to bring my sisters along. And so that's where the navigation comes in. That's where Pink Lotus started. It's not, he saved me. and that's kudos for me. But what was I supposed to do with my cancer? My cancer journey was to save others. My cancer journey was to reach back and say, you know how to do this. Teach your sisters and your brothers how to do this, right? Like, you don't have to have the degree. You just have to have the support. You got to have the information, right? You got to have the want to be preventative and proactive about your health. We have to get over that poor, pitiful me, and I'm going to let the doctors do what they want to me. It's like, no, take care of yourself. Speak up for yourself. Be your own self-advocate. Know your body. Know what you're talking about so you can teach them, right? Because doctors are educated guests. They use the information you give them. And so as much information you can have about yourself and know your history and know your body, it helps them diagnose you. It helps them treat you. So if you go in with information and stop with a different attitude than help me, it's like, this is how I'm going to help you help me. This is what I do. This is how I live. This is what my history is. This is what my family history is. This is what my lifestyle is. This is my stresses in life, because it all comes back to your psychosocial with Black people. We are not living just as programmed people. We are living a life, and life be lifing, right? So what are your stresses in life, right? Yeah. How do you deal with your stresses in life, right? Some people don't handle their stress. On our Health Wealth and Relationships, we talk about ways of taking care of yourself, ways of life is going to life. How do you react to that stress, right? So it doesn't fester into a physical ailment and that kind of thing. So giving tips on just taking care of yourself. And so for me, it was easy, but my charge is to teach my community the same things that I knew.
And I would also
want to ask Dr. Blain, if you don't mind, because this is getting to an area that we really want to lean into your expertise, Dr. Blain. We need to understand what's that one action or several actions that listeners really need to do to protect their health. They may have a navigator. They don't even know what a navigator is. They don't understand that, but to get to a better outcome is what we're looking to do.
To get to a better outcome is be prepared, right? Being prepared is not only just showing up to your appointment, which is very important. We can't get nothing started until you show up to your appointment, but it's being prepared, having a primary care that you have a strong enough relationship with, that you can convey the things that's going on with you so they know how to take action, right? Leveraging the tools that are widely available to us, like your patient messaging, that's on like basically every platform. Leverage using that to speak to your provider about things. Frame a message where if you have a concern, don't just kick it to your auntie. Still ask your auntie, because she's going to feel a certain way if you don't. But if you have a real medical condition or a medical question, frame it to your provider so that they can answer you back. This is not an update. You are asking them to provide you with the best information and likely a care plan or a care journey so that you can handle this. And it's always about asking the right questions. Every time you go into your doctor's appointment, even if it's your primary care, a specialist, doesn't matter who it is, be prepared to have 3 to 5 questions available that are relevant to how do I take care of my body when I leave these doors? And the question should really focus on, things around how do I make sure that I'm not admitted to the hospital? I don't have any unnecessary harm or damage done to this body, because to our knowledge, God only gives us this one body to live, and I need to make sure it works well so my family can continue to survive. And that is how you navigate your journey. You have to ask the right questions to let them know, one, that your experience is real, for them to also take you serious. No one's going to take us serious until we take ourselves serious. And our health is a serious, serious thing. So when you come prepared, it changes the dynamic, because for the longest time, regardless, I've showed up to multiple different cancer centers, hospitals. You go to the front desk and they may see me. I'm dressed in regular street clothes. They don't know my background. They talk to me any which way. I'm young, I'm Black, but they may hear me on the phone speaking Spanish or whatever it is. I got tattoos. They're thinking of me already. They already put me in a box. Mm-hmm. We have to break outside of that box and realize there's a whole lot more space in this room than the box they put you in. Occupy that space and realize there's even more space outside of that. But how do you do that? You do it with asking the right questions, having the right knowledge, educating yourself, listening to podcasts like this, listening to shows like this, to make sure that you are equipped with the best tools to go there. When you go to the front desk, if let them know what's going on with you. Hey, I'm here. I'm here for my appointment. I want to make sure that these things are set up correctly. The front desk may say, okay, you talked that with the doctor, but at least you let another person know lightly. Don't give them all the details, but lightly enough to know. Oh, they may want to alert the medical assistant or the nurse or the doctor to let them know, oh, they actually have some serious questions. Write down your questions. There's so much things going on in our mind at one time. You worried about the kids going to school. Did you strap in the car seat correctly? Did you take out the trash? Today's Wednesday's trash day. Write down what matters to you so you can actually get them addressed and answered. I've done this personally in my own health journey. I've done it for my dad, who's had a kidney transplant, a stroke. His health is not the best, but best believe when he shows up to his doctor's appointments, they take him extremely serious. And it took me intervening, and a lot of it was him taking his health serious, and then also me being a partner in his healthcare. Now, they don't say no to any service that he needs. Oh, you need home care? Yes, this is how you get it done. You get people to step up because they see that you take this serious.
Right.
That's the big one. Is it ultimately gets down to changing perceptions of how people see us, and we have to take our health as serious as can be. And once we start taking our health and ourselves serious, it forces everyone else in the room to take
that accountability is king. Remember, they don't have cancer, you do. So you've got to be there. There's usually three players in this whole thing. There's the patient, there's the provider, and then obviously there's the insurance, unfortunately the payer, right? And all three of those, you've got to be able to navigate, but you have to be a equal participant in all of that. Would you not agree, Ms. Tisa?
Oh, absolutely. And it starts with just I'm even before you get in the door, right? So where I see the breakdown is in our community is not even having the lack of primary care. It's that closing that gap from that screening, because we get screenings, right? We have upcoming, case in point, we have an upcoming health fair, a pink pancake feed, and health fair. So I changed it into a pink pancake feed to a pink pancake health fair because I found a need to have screening at the end of the year. It seemed like everybody in Omaha, Nebraska was having screenings in the spring. So we have something called the North Omaha Health and Family Wellness. It's pretty much all of the Black people get their first year screening in the spring, and they have their health fair. And then we have ours in the fall. Well, the breakdown is, again, after that first initial screening, they're not plugged into primary care. They're not plugged into a healthcare system. It's taking them from that screening to getting them to that primary care. And that's what in our health fair, we try to work, first of all, with students to get them culturally competent in terms of learning with our community, learning from the jump, working with our community, the Black community, learning Auntie Em and Bobo over there and how we live and talk and all of that so they understand us, right? And then taking them from our screening to a primary care. And so I work with Nebraska Medicine and a couple of other Charles Drews here that are our community healthcare systems. And they're trying to get them in their door, right? So it's connecting them with the primary care after the screening. So the students are doing the screenings through Nebraska Medicine. They can get handed off to a primary care. Like you said, if you get a positive test screening for anything, high blood pressure, diabetes or whatever, what are you going to do with that information? Now what you going to do? Because you need to get some treatment. You need to get some consultation on that because it's a problem. It's an early detection of a problem. And so again, using that early detection tool, we have to move them into the next steps. And so our thing is to now continue to work with our healthcare system to get them into that primary care so they'll get in the door. And then we'll get them those questions lined up, right? Then we'll get with them to say, do you need somebody to walk with you in this appointment? And what kind of questions do you need to ask? And getting them all psyched because you got to be the trained conductor in your health. You can't go in there being the passenger. It's changing from a passenger to the conductor when you get on that train. It's like, this is what I need from you. This is what I have. This is what's going on. How can you help me solve that problem? Not give me a pill, not necessarily, and like you said, what can I do when I walk out of here to help myself?
Yes. And if it is a pill that's needed, what is the end goal of this pill? Am I going on this pill forever? Or is this this is how I take care of myself so I can only be on this for 6 months. We're going to reevaluate and pick up where we are so I can hopefully get off this, not lose my hair, not have eczema, which I finally worked so hard to address. Look at the cascade of problems. I don't want to have a headache every 3 days. I got work. I got kids. I got things to do. How do we avoid that? these are the conversations to have with your provider that really
Right.
help change the dynamic between, oh, poor is me, or oh, they're just like, for example, I love to use my dad as an example, even though it hurts to use my dad as an example, but a lot of times he'd show up places, he has an accent, he's black, so he's foreign, and they're just like, oh, he doesn't care about himself. Versus when I prepared him, gave him the tools, used the knowledge. I went to school for a reason. I didn't go to school to harbor this knowledge myself. Once I started doing that, it was like an automatic shift that changed right away. When I say everyone started taking him serious, oh, Mr. Blain, do you need help with this? He started getting more services than what he knew what he needed. He was like, I didn't even know I needed to have a home care nurse come and check on me twice a week to make sure my blood pressure's in check. Which then that's a whole nother thing, because a lot of us live in a community because of our history and everything else going on. We have white coat syndrome. We go to the hospital, our blood pressure will always be high. Because Uncle Larry died here, or Uncle Charles, he slipped and fell, cracked his head open, was in the ICU for 3 months, and they kept him there, and they didn't. Or
trauma and trauma. I hear you.
Yeah,
trauma and physical trauma that occurs in a lot of these locations that have been around for 100 years, 150 years. There's a lot of history there. So what do we do? How do we take care of ourselves at home? How do we monitor these things at home? How do we check to make sure, you did say my blood pressure is 150 over 95 here, but I've been tracking and trending at home. And this is how you pose, again, using a tool, using that patient messaging board that occurs between you and your provider. Hey, I track my blood pressure every day for the past 7 days. My blood pressure at home is 115 over 68. I might not need these high blood pressure pills that's making me lose my hair and be itchy and have a cough and not feel good. Maybe I do need it. Maybe we need to come up with a plan of, Mr. So-and-so, let's get you on an exercise regimen where you don't have to. And a lot of times too, this all goes back to our fear. When you hear certain things, we're hearing you're out of shape, you're doing negative, instead of walk with me and show me how I can be better. Get me a lot of hospitals have dietitians, a lot of them have nutritionists. They should be talking to us. Why are they waiting to talk to us when we have extremely out of control diabetes when they can talk to us in the primary care setting, saying, hey, you don't really need to work out for 2 hours a day because you have a life and a job and a family and kids, and your wife is definitely going to leave you because why are you not home for 2 hours after work? I got questions, causing a whole bunch of other issues. It's, you may just need to walk around the block if you have a safe enough block or area or whatever for 10 minutes. You may just need 10 to 15 minutes of good exercise.
Yeah, and how about maybe you just need to eat more vegetables and more fruits.
That's another one too.
Just that processed food, because really, it's taking ownership of the total person, right? Like it's really looking at your habits, your lifestyles, and that's the ownership part. It's like, how are you living? Again, I go always back to how you living, and I mean that in a literal sense.
Yes,
all these things are important.
Do you eat fresh fruit? Do you know what a vegetable is? Really, how are you living?
Why don't we do this, Miss Tisa? We gotta have. So we got so much we can talk about. We gotta have Dr. Blain back. Make this into like a series. We gotta have him back and really get into this, because this is not gonna just be solved in one episode. We're getting to the holistic view of what's happening. What I'm hearing about, it's a lot of miscommunication that goes on both sides of the ball.
Yes.
And that's an accountability on both sides of the ball. And we need to understand these things, where this is getting dropped, because this is a life-saving adventure. And all of us have to be willing participants in this and understanding what that whole payer world looks like. We didn't get to that today, but that whole payer world, that insurance world, it can be a big giant headache where you want to get the right medication, but yet you're regulated to a different kind of medication, and you're wondering, like, is that good, bad, or indifferent? Because you're not the expert, right? So all these things, we have a lot of follow-up that we could talk about.
We do. I'll lightly touch on the insurance. Insurance is a beast, but insurance is a beast because we've made it into this beast, right? This is where it really gets back to, as we said before, having a strong primary care provider. Right. Your primary care is the center. This is the person that's getting the ball rolling. They're addressing a lot of your major health issues, especially for a lot of us. The cards are stacked against us. We know. How do you work around a situation where the cards are significantly stacked against you? You start using the tools that's available to kind of knock away some of these barriers and things like that. We'll definitely cover this at a later time. But with insurance, right away, it's having a strong relationship with your primary care, leveraging the tools that are available, like your patient messaging. that can be used to support why you may need a specific medication. Explain it in your own words. How many times have we went to the hospital, went to the doctor's office, and you know what you said to them, and they wrote down something very different? Like, for example, you go in, you say, I've had a cough for 4 months. It's dry. It bothers me at night. So I can't sleep. It affects my job. My wife tells me I'm snoring too much. I got to turn on my side. It's interrupting her sleep. That's a lot that just was said. But then when you read the note, it says patient's positive for nighttime cough.
Or sleep apnea right away.
Or sleep apnea. And you're like, you missed the fact that I have a cough at night. It's interfering. Look at the multiple different domains that it touches this cough at night. No one's taken the initiative. You had a cough for 4 months. That's not normal. We need to send you to a pulmonologist. We need to probably do, no one's asked the additional question of, do you have a smoking history? We may need to do a low density chest CT, see if you have lung cancer, right? This is where the area is missed by so much. This is the chasm I'm talking about that exists, especially for us. We're speaking the same language, but they're not documenting what's going on because it's not relevant to their purview or their perspective of what's to be cared for. This is your chance to now give them.
And they only got a 10 to 15 minute window.
Block. Yes.
They're moving on. It's a fast food chain, right?
Yeah. So this is how we put the care back in healthcare too, is leveraging, using those tools to make sure they address your concerns. You can have when I worked in the clinic, I had some patient chains that were 15 messages back and forth, but it's to get to the bottom of what their real issue is.
Okay.
And when you finally get to the bottom of it, not only do they feel seen, heard, respected, and finally someone's taking in what they're saying and picking up what they're putting down, it's the other side of, I can use all this information to go talk to the insurance company why you need to see this specialist, why you may need this medication, why we need to probably change treatment because it's causing more harm than good. And the next treatment is too expensive typically that they don't allow, but we have a lot of clinical information and symptoms that are here that warrants them to say, yes, we will cover this because you have the data. They can't argue with data. They can argue with their mom as much as they want, but you can't argue with data. And when you have it too, then it puts them also in a position of, we have to take action. We have to cover it, I guess. I bet you guess, because this is my auntie that I need to make sure that she makes it to my graduation in 2 years.
Yeah.
Right.
You start making the person, it's no longer a patient, it's a person.
Before we conclude, we got it. Most people that are listening, like, all right, we want to go see Dr. Blain. I'm sure a lot of people know about Nebraska, like, where's his office at, right? But you're in a different place. Where are you at, Dr. Blain?
So I live outside of Boston. I'm in the greater Boston area. I do a lot of health equity, health and wellness discussions. My main job, I do molecular profiling for cancer patients. So I'm always privy to any new information that comes in, but I do not see patients anymore, but I'm always in constant contact with nurse practitioners, oncologists, other providers to make sure that the message that I'm giving is as sound as possible. It's relevant. I'm not talking about something from 7-8 years ago. And it's impactful. I want people to leave from whenever I'm speaking or talking or giving them recommendations to know what is their next steps that they need to do.
Love it, man. Love it. Tisa, any last words for Dr. Blain before we bring him back? Because he's coming back.
No, yeah, I think the takeaways are, you have to, it starts for me with the mindset. It just starts with us. First of all, taking care of ourselves and knowing our bodies. And then if we need health care, being informed enough to inform the providers to help yourself. that's what I'm at.
Gotta help yourself. I want to thank you again, Dr. Blain. We're definitely going to get some resources. We're going to put them onto the Pink Lotus Nebraska Project Nebraska website so we can have this information available. We all agree here, the more information that you have and that you can utilize, and like you said, be prepared when you're going to see that doctor. I think that's so important. So I want to thank you again for being on the show. We will see you again very soon.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate you, as they do.
So, wow. I'm always blown away by some of our guests when they come on the show. They really kind of distill the situation from an expert lens that we've got to be more accountable in our care and what that's going to look like. And be, and I like a trusted care partner, the whole navigator world. I never had a navigator, but I haven't been in a situation, I don't think, me personally, that I needed one. But most people don't understand that the healthcare system is a big labyrinth. There's just a lot of interconnected parts in all those things. What are your key takeaways, Tisa?
You know, like you said, the healthcare system is a lot. So first and foremost, let's take care of ourselves. We don't have to ever enter a healthcare system if we're taking care of ourselves and being proactive. And if you do have to enter the healthcare system, you know about yourself because you've been taking care of yourself and you know yourself. The problem comes in when you haven't been taking care of yourself and you don't know yourself. You enter a different world, a healthcare system. You can't help them help you, so you become a victim. You become just people, we're scared of being the guinea pigs. But if you can't help them help yourself, you are leaving it up to them to know everything about you. You're leaving it up to them to make those assumptions about you, which we talked about. There's a lot of biases there. So you can't leave it up to them. It starts with us. And so as we continue to talk to people with our health, wealth, and relationships, we always bring it back to us. And we're going to talk more about Dr. Blain and how to navigate through the systems. But I want people to always start with the man in the mirror. Start taking care of yourself and start being proactive about your health. Stop thinking about and stuff after the fact. If you know you have some things to work on those things. Mm-hmm. I just implore you to look in the mirror and say, you know what? I'm 20 pounds overweight. I'm going to take care of that. Not letting the doctor tell you that you need to lose 20 pounds. You already know you need to lose 20 pounds. You need to lose 50 pounds. Just look in the mirror and say, you know what? I know I got to do this. I'm going to start walking. I'm going to start eating better. It starts with the man in the mirror to me. Because what's going to happen is we can spin to the healthcare systems and then we're going to leave the blame there when it starts with us.
Thank you.
Let's start
100%. 100% on what you just said there. And also understand this. When you're going through a healthcare system, like Dr. Blain said, you've got to be prepared. You got to understand if you need transportation, get that ahead of time so you know what you're dealing with. If you feel you're going to need some assistance from a financial standpoint, get copay assistance. There are things out there available that you can begin to preempt before you get into a situation that you cannot control. So they'll help you cover rides. They can help with meals. They can help with bills before any kind of treatment may need to start. I think this is so important. And these relationships, like these things,
it's a relationship. You have to develop a relationship with somebody in those healthcare systems, i.e. that's your primary care. We have to have a primary care. And if you haven't heard it enough, it starts there. If you haven't heard primary care enough to the point where you don't even know what it is, that means you have not been to the doctor. You have not been in the healthcare system in a while, because it starts with your primary care, your primary doctor. Primary care stands for the primary person in charge of your care, your primary care doctor.
Annual physicals. Gotta get a physical, not just a screening, a physical.
One person you see every year who knows you, who knows how you're living, right? Who knows your lifestyle, who knows some of your family history, because he might have treated your mom, or you might have some other family members. But I'm gonna try to get my family going to the same person, because it's important that they know your family history. I went to my mother's doctor, so he knew our family history, but she also went to a doctor that was about old school, about giving pills all the time, right? So I had to pivot from that, because I seen that with her. He's just about writing prescriptions. And so again, acknowledging that, that was good for her, but I had to switch because that doctor was not good for me. We had a whole different perception on our care, right? And so, and it's just having the gumption to just stand up for yourself in these situations. And if you need somebody to go with you, take somebody with you. But it really is not having that white coat syndrome that Dr. Blain was talking about. It's going in there with your arms and your information and your questions and being ready. That's how you should enter a doctor's office.
I like that. So we're going to continue these conversations. We have to continue these conversations because health, you got to have it, and you got to understand through the lens of wealth and the lens through your relationships. And we want to thank him again for being on the show. And we got to get one more thing shouted out because it's coming up. It's coming up quick. We've got the pancake feed coming up in October. Give us another shout out for that. And your 9th year anniversary. We cannot keep forgetting that because you're in celebration right now, right?
I wish I had some music. So we are celebrating our 9th year. Y'all, we've been out here for 9 years celebrating and just trying to move the needle for breast cancer survivors. It's a survivorship program. And we need to talk about that survivorship, because people don't talk about those of us who are, and that's why I have Pink Lotus, and that's why I have our Strut for the Cure. But coming up is our Pink Pancake 7th annual Pink Pancake Feed. Again, been doing this for 7 years. And health fair. The key there is pancakes, come and eat some food, but get screened. Yes. So get it out to your friends and family now. If you know people who are not, seeing a doctor or whatever, bring them out for some pancakes. Here's some information on breast cancer and on cancer, but also get free screening. It's free screening. And then what happens is, again, at our health fairs, you're going to get screened by some students from Nebraska Medicine who are teaching to be culturally competent, who are teaching to work in the communities that they're going to be released to soon, which is important. But also we're going to connect you with their healthcare system. So if you don't have a primary care and you're getting a screening, we can start plugging you into the healthcare system, starting with that primary care person. And you can, and in the meantime, do your due diligence. If you don't have a primary care and you think you're going to come out and get some screenings, go online and start just looking. What do you want in a primary care? If you wanted to be of color, if you want to be a male, if you want to be female, if you wanted to be cancer conscious or cancer, you want to know about cancer. Put all of those in. You can put filters in and find a primary care, and it'll at least get you a starting point to bring up some people who might be kind of connected to where you are in terms of your healthcare, right? If they practice holistic at all, if that's a part of that conversation. So now when I go in, I want them to have some type of a holistic mindset. Yes, like you said, Western and Eastern. I need you to bring my two worlds together, because I'm not about them pills. So I want you to be able to talk something natural to me as well. So you can Google all that and put all those filters in and start somewhere on looking for that primary care, because that's what we want to turn you on to after your screening. When you get screened in October, or when you get screened with the Black Family Health and Wellness in the spring, we're going to hopefully you're following up us in October, and we can get you plugged into a healthcare system with a healthcare provider, a primary care provider, so that we can start getting your continuity of care going, especially if you got some positive or some numbers that ain't looking right when you get screened. For sure, we want to follow up on that care and make sure your care is being handled appropriately.
All right. In the meantime, you got to eat right and
move.
All right. We'll see you next week. Remember, Thursdays, 10 a.m. Be there. If you want to be a guest, let us know. Talk to you later. Bye.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Imagine waking up with more energy, a peaceful mind, and relationships that grow stronger every day. That is the vision Tisa Harden and Grant McGaw want to help you achieve, and it all starts with simple, practical steps you can take this week. On health, wealth, and relationships, every episode brings you real stories and trusted experts. Tisa and Grant focus on 3 tactical steps each week. Small, doable moves that protect your health, grow your savings, and bring you closer to the people you love. No complicated rules, just real progress. Try a clinic-to-kitchen swap to boost your energy. Start a money buffer habit that quietly builds your financial confidence. Or try a 1-minute exercise that helps you reconnect with your partner. These quick wins are not chores. They are steps toward a better life. People who try just one intentional step report more energy, less money stress, and evenings full of laughter again. Join Tisa and Grant. Start small, live bigger. Tune in every Thursday at 10 a.m. on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and subscribe now.